Today, we are talking to Chuck from the Sheraton Park Farms, who is an expert at raising pigs, chickens, turkeys, and more on their farm. We're going to see how much profit you can potentially make with raising pigs as a side hustle and what is needed for you to start making money with pigs today. Now, let's jump right into the interview. All right, awesome. So now we have Chuck here from Sheraton Park Farms, who are going to be asking a lot of questions about raising pigs, everything we need to know, how to get started, how profitable it will be. And we have a lot of questions, so let's dive right into it. And the first question we have is, how long have you been raising pigs for? And if you will tell us a little bit about your farm.
So, my name is Chuck Lewis. My wife and I own Sheraton Park Farms. We're located in the northwestern corner, kind of North Carolina. We own a 70-acre farm here. We bought this farm that we're on right now. We bought this farm actually about a year ago to the date. We closed on the first week of October. Prior to that, we were on a smaller farm down in the central part of North Carolina where we really kind of got started. Fast forward to February, the week of Valentine's Day, February 2018, we had ordered, I think it was 50 meat chickens, and I had gone on Craigslist and found 6 pigs. And so with zero experience and within the course of about 3 days, we went from 0 to 50 chickens and 6 pigs. I would not recommend that to anyone without any experience. Probably not the best way to get started in the farming business, but that's what happened. So we had a lot of baptism by fire. Since then, real quick, we've grown. This year, we'll process about 60 pigs. We'll process and sell about 1,700 to 1,800 chickens. We'll do about 25 beef cattle and about 200 turkeys. And we'll sell a couple thousand dozen eggs. So we started this. This is our 5th full year farming, but we got our first animals the week of February 14th, 2018, a date that will live in infamy for us.
And I guess kind of going back to when you said you originally got all the animals with the chickens and the pigs, you said it was, a huge learning curve. Could you go more into that? Like, was there certain equipment that you needed to get started? Is there other things you wish you would have known before, you dove basically right into the deep end?
Yeah, so we had zero experience. Neither my wife nor I had any farming experience whatsoever. We had grown a little bit of a garden, and then growing up as kids, our parents and our grandparents had gardens, and I think her grandparents had some chickens, but it was nothing that we were ever really involved with, especially on any kind of production scale. So for us, it was really, it was kind of consuming that content that was out there. YouTube, podcast, there are some books out there that we had picked up and read. And so, intellectually, we kind of had the basics down. It's really easy to figure out, okay, what equipment do you need? How much space do you need? All those kinds of things. We'll talk about that in a few minutes too. And I tell folks that reach out to me that have questions all the time, you can read about it, you can watch, you can study, you can paralysis by analysis yourself to death until you actually get those animals. That's when the learning starts. Until you get those animals on your property and you actually start caring for them and you've got that day-to-day interaction. That's when you really learn how to do this kind of thing.
As far as getting back to raising like the pigs, like what equipment is needed? Could I basically just go buy some piglets and buy some fencing? I'm good to go, or what is there?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't recommend that. First off, find some piglets, find a good source of those piglets, and then some equipment that you're going to need on your property. You're going to need some kind of fencing. That's the number one thing that you need to be thinking about early on is your fencing. You want to keep those animals on your property. You don't want them in the neighbor's yard digging through their flower garden. The 3 things that we always talk about when we do daily chores is feed, fence, and water. And those are the 3. That's the 3-legged stool that you always want to be paying attention to. Do you have good fence? Do the animals have access to good, clean water? And do they have access to feed?
Okay. Say if you wanted to go back to what you're saying, like the 16 by 16 fence, maybe like 4 piglets and set up water and feed, how much would you kind of estimate to get that like basic setup up?
Yeah, so the fence panels are going to run, they're about $25 a piece now, so you're going to be $100 in on fencing. Piglets, that can run the gamut. I have bought piglets as cheap as $35. And I have sold piglets as expensive as $150. So that's a little bit of shopping around, but I would budget about $100 for a piglet. So okay. If you're going to do 4 piglets, there's $400 plus the 100 for the fencing that you got. So you're in for $500 with 4 piglets. Your bowls and your pig nipples and those kinds of things. Those are just kind of incidental costs that really aren't going to be very expensive. I'd budget maybe another $50 for those kinds of things.
Okay, so we're kind of looking at maybe like $550 if you want to start from the ground up with 4 piglets. Okay.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it before, but what was the reasons why you decided to go with raising pigs instead of say a different type of animal or I mean, maybe a different side hustle all in total,
So we were thinking about getting started in farming, we wanted to do more than one thing. We were going to start with chickens, but we had a long-term goal of adding other animals. We wanted to be a polyculture farm. We didn't want to be a chicken farm or a pig farm or a cattle farm. And so that was part of it, was adding just another species. And then after doing a little bit of research, pigs turned out to be pretty daggone profitable for us. And the numbers kind of flushed out on paper that they were going to be a good profitable enterprise.
How long does it take to raise a pig from a piglet to a full grown pig? Is this something you could do multiple times in a year, or is it, it takes a full year or even longer to go throughout that process?
We can take an 8-week-old piglet, and in 6 months, from the time we bring that 8-week-old piglet onto our farm, in 6 months, have that animal at slaughter size somewhere around the 300 to 325 pound range. Yes, you can do that multiple times in a year. And the best way to do that is maybe you buy 2 8-week-old piglets now. Then next month, you buy 2 more 8-week-old piglets. Then the next month, you buy 2 8-week-old piglets. And so you stack those. So you have animals that are ready to be processed at multiple months along the way. So you've always got something in the pipeline, so to speak. And so that gives you sort of this ongoing supply that you can continue to process.
Say you send your pigs out to get processed and you get them back. What do you do there if you want to sell them retail?
Yeah. So one thing I tell folks that when they come to me asking about this kind of thing, start your marketing before you ever get those animals. Go ahead and tell friends and family, hey, we're thinking about getting into farming and we're going to be raising some pigs, and this is how we're going to do it. This is when we're going to get them processed. And this is the method we're going to raise them. This is what we're going to feed them, and get folks interested in what you're doing before you ever get those animals. Get a fan base, start you a social media page, get you an email list, talk to all your friends, your family, whoever will listen to you talk about your farm, and get folks interested in purchasing from you. I tell folks, I would rather show up at a farmer's market and have 50 people in line and sell out of stuff in the first hour than to show up at a market and there's crickets, nobody around to buy. So start recruiting your customers as soon as you get, or even before you get those animals.
What about now? So we have our pigs, we're at the farmer's market and we're selling them. What could we kind of expect? Like the big question a lot of people want to know is how much money can you make with raising pigs?
So we get this question all the time. How much should I charge for a pound of bacon? How much should I charge for a pork chop? So what we tell folks is the first thing you have to know is, what are your costs? How much did it cost you to get that animal in that package in front of that customer? We're talking, what did the animal cost? How much feed cost do you have? What cost do you have in your infrastructure, and how are you amortizing that out over multiple batches of animals? What was your labor? You've always got to include your labor, because your time is, that's the thing you can't replace. You can buy more pigs, you can buy more fence, you can't replace your time. So you got to account for your time. So what we do is we take that number and then we add our profit percentage on top of that. What do we want to make? Is it 20%? Is it 30%? Is it 50%? That's kind of a number you have to decide for yourself. So that's how we kind of arrive at our price. Different markets are going to command different prices. Just some real quick numbers that we ran earlier today. I was kind of curious sort of where we were at. Right now, we are spending so if we take a 265 pound pig that's 8 months old, the full retail on that animal is going to be about $1,700. If we process that animal per package, we're looking at about $1,700. We're going to spend about $500 in feed and about $420 in processing. So that's going to, we're going to land at a profit there of about $844. We take out labor, we take out fuel. We can make about $650 on a pig right now. A few years ago, we were doing much better than that because feed costs were down, processing costs were down, fuel costs were down. So we've seen a real increase in our cost. We have absorbed a large portion of that, but there's some of it that we're now starting to have to pass along to the customer. So again, depends on the market that you're in. That's kind of back of the napkin numbers where we're at today.
Okay. And I guess so, say if someone had an acre of land they wanted to use to raise pigs, what would be kind of like a ballpark, maybe like profitability wise, then how many pigs they could raise on there? Would it be around like $10,000 per an acre, or is that below?
So if you were by our numbers, if you were doing five pigs, you'd be looking at about $3,200. So if you've done 10, about $6,400. you could do, if you had about 10 pigs, you could do about $6,400, and you really could turn that a couple of times a year. Especially if you were, bringing in 2 or 3 at a time every month and sort of had that ongoing income. And another thing, the longer, and we've discovered this, the longer you do this, the more efficient you're going to become. And the better you're going to become at raising those animals, rotating those animals, knowing when they're ready to process, not overfeeding, not underfeeding. There's a little bit of a learning curve. Doesn't take long to figure out, but the longer you do it, the better you're going to get and the more profitable you're going to get, especially as you get your infrastructure things paid off too. That makes a difference.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. And yeah, kind of, I guess, going more into being more efficient over time. Like, is there like a projected amount of or estimated amount of hours every week you'd say you put towards raising the pigs then?
Yeah. So every day, we look at the animals every day. We always check feed water fence every day. On some of our feeder animals that we're raising out for slaughter, we put what's called a bulk feeder. So we'll put 2,000 pounds of feed in with those animals, and they always have access. So it's not like we have to go feed them every day. On average, we probably spend, for our feeder group, maybe 5 hours a week. I mean, that's a very generous estimate.
And just, wrapping, I guess, everything up. Do you have any, final tips for someone who's looking to get started?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great resources out there. So we've got a YouTube channel that we've done a lot of pig education on over there. It's Sheraton Park Farms. So go over there and check that out. We also do some on-farm classes. We do a pastured pig class. A lot of resources out there. And reach out to these folks. Reach out to me. We're always, we answer emails and text messages and do phone calls and consultation and all those kinds of things. I think you'll find some of the folks in the farming community are some of the friendliest, most willing to help share their knowledge with you that you will ever find. So find a good mentor and involve those folks in your learning process.
Right, awesome. And we'll definitely be leaving a link to your YouTube channel and website. So if any of the viewers want to check any of your great resources with videos or your website, we'll be having them down below. But Chuck, I just want to thank you for your time and helping myself and a lot of the viewers learn about raising pigs and what's expected and a lot of tips and tricks and how much money they can potentially make. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, Kevin, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much.
Of course. Take care. Bye.